The Digital Photography Cafe show is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera, and by Mosaic, your Lightroom photos automatically on every device and backed up, and by ShootProof, the easy way to proof and sell your photos online.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe show. Join hosts Trevor Curran and Joseph Christina as they chat about the art and business of photography.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is episode 89. I'm Joseph Christina here with my co-host Trevor Curran. On last week's show, we gave some tips on connecting with your customers from behind the camera and from behind the computer. If you haven't listened to last week's show, I encourage you to do so. You can find it at our website, digitalphotographycafe.com, in iTunes, watch with the popular Stitcher and TuneIn radio apps, and now watch on HD TV through TiVo.
So Joe, we are back. How's it going, my friend?
We are here. We're doing it again. 89.
Yes, we are, episode 89. Hey, we had some big news this week, huh?
Really big.
Yeah. So we've been doing this show for over a year and a half. We've had the site going. We're pounding this thing through social media and stuff. And
pounding the pavement.
Just for the heck of it, the other day, we decided to do a Google search for the term digital photography. Nice broad term. 337 million results. And guess what? Digital Photography Cafe showed up on page 1.
Is that crazy?
Holy crap.
Exactly. There's a couple of people listening, I think.
Apparently. Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, I think we were like number 8, number 9, something like that. So yeah, first page out of 337 million. That's kind of crazy. I mean, we have to thank all you guys for that. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
All the listeners, and for at the very beginning we had 52 shows of just listening, just podcasts, and then we moved into the video, and you guys have just been just showing your love for the video too. Just really appreciate it.
Yeah.
But God, I mean, I can't even believe that.
I know,
over 300 million.
It's nuts.
It's pretty crazy.
And you know what? I mean, we all know Google rankings change every day. And, we could be gone tomorrow. We could be off page 1 tomorrow. But
today
we are there. We're there. So you know what? We're going to celebrate while we can.
Yes. And bask in the ambiance or something.
Yeah. And just for the heck of it, using the Google keyword tool. Now, if you guys haven't used the Google keyword tool, Google it and go in and check it out and search for your keyword phrases that you're trying to rank for. So just for the heck of it, I put digital photography in and found out that worldwide, globally, that searched over 60,000 times per day. I mean, that's just nuts. So one would think being on page 1, we stand a really good chance of driving a lot of traffic to our website for that. So
yeah,
Woo-hoo.
definitely. Woohoo! Yeah, we made it. Yeah. We're like it's doing well.
Right.
So, anyways, this show is going to be another good one. We have it just packed with a lot of good stuff. So we really need to get into it so we don't go over our time.
Yes, that's right.
But anyways, one of the things that we're going to talk about is as we call it, the Dear John follow-up email, right?
Yeah. So, a couple weeks ago, I had a meeting with a client, and, I kind of was thinking about this, and I've used this technique in the past, and, it really got me, making more thought about it, thinking a little bit more about it and stuff. And, so as we all do, we meet with clients and we talk to them, we discuss their needs. And, if it's something that is a price list type of item where we can just give them a quote on the spot, we can do that. Otherwise, we usually have to get back to them with a quote. But either way, after the meeting, we should always be following up with the prospect with an email, just thanking them for their time, and of course asking them if there's any questions or what have you. But see, that's
the technique, right? The technique on how to get back with them is where many of us are flawed.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, if you just reply to them and say, if you have any questions, please let me know. I mean, that's kind of like
you're done.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like
that's the Dear John letter right there.
That's exactly right. That's like the breakup email. What's happening is you're giving them it's too open-ended. It's you're giving
too
them
easy to basically not get back, or it's too easy to say, "Oh no, thank you so much. We're going to go through it."
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's
I mean,
it.
you've got the ball moving. You started the conversation, you had the meeting, you showed them your work. I mean, obviously they like you enough to at least have the meeting. You got to keep that ball moving. So you need to include some call to action in the email.
Right.
So, what I like doing is providing some type of information or resources that will give them a reason to, come back to your website, give them a reason to keep thinking about you. And that's really where content marketing comes in. I mean,
I tell you what, that when you have these meetings, they always are, coming with all sorts of questions. They come up with all of this, how about this? How about that? How about if this happens? How much if you do this? Or how about if it's on location? Or how about if we get extras? Or how about if it's a book? Or,
Right.
when you're at the meeting, so to speak, you really should be jotting down all of these very pertinent questions, because these questions are the ones that you might not be able to answer all of them right there on the spot, but you need to answer them either in this email or, let's say, at a site or someplace where you can send them as a follow-up, like a FAQ, right? Like a little
Right,
frequently asked
right.
questions area. So you don't have to answer the same damn questions over and over and over, because that we know happens all the time. But that is where you get back into your content marketing.
Absolutely. I mean, this is where the blog component of your website comes into play. It gives
Right.
you the ability to easily go in and add this information without really, having to go in and hard code things or go into the HTML and do a whole bunch
Right.
of stuff. I mean, which really is a pain. And a lot of people that are using Flash-based websites with no
Okay.
blog component, this really is the problem that you're facing.
Right.
So, the blog component that we've talked about time and time again, writing content to give them a reason to come to your site. We've talked about, writing about reception hall reviews or vendors that you've worked with, talk about them, share your experiences from your shoots, maybe share some photos from your shoot. But like you said, I mean, answering these types of questions are perfect. And it's basically an unlimited amount of material. I mean, I get asked all the
Absolutely.
time, Trevor, what should I write about on my blog? I don't really even know. And you give them those couple suggestions and they write those articles and then bam, they're done,
Exactly. No. I love the idea, like you were saying, with reception halls and vendors. I know we've given these tips before,
Right.
but they're so big and it's so powerful that, I'll give you an example. Let's say, we're shooting a big gala, let's say, and it's on Palm Beach. And, the event where it's being held at, the reception hall, is like a big, really nice hotel.
Right.
Well, it's very nice to go ahead and after the fact write the blog entry about this hotel, about the venue, about the people that were there. Let's say, even the best thing is, let's say, write about the GM or whoever the party planner or whoever your contact was specific to
Right.
that hotel.
Right.
And just, you don't want to be blowing smoke on how fantastic, but, tell the truth.
Sure. An honest review.
What happens, an honest review. And what happens is these people will get wind of it, because most of the time these hotels are continuously scouring the web for any just nuance of information about them, negative
Sure.
or positive.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if
They're
it
looking
is
for any
negative,
press they can get.
absolutely. But no, if it is negative, they want to quell that right away. And we've seen this just recently with an event that we did down south on Key West. We did a really nice shoot down there. It was at the Southernmost House, is what it's called.
Right.
Beautiful, beautiful location. It's like a B&B, like a bread and breakfast.
Like 80
But-
miles from Cuba, right?
basically you could see Cuba, but they continuously monitor this. And there was one party that was saying negative things, and they actually made the quote unquote innkeeper answer every single one of these questions, because it was so important for them to have their record completely clean and that everyone is happy, because we know that these type of things that get out there, it's more important when someone says something positive about you, right?
Right.
But it's just extremely important that someone says something negative, that you quell it, because that one negative will just completely just throw the other 100 into the garbage. So,
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's
think
very,
about
very
Amazon
important.
reviews, right? You go there to buy a
Absolutely.
product and you've got all these great reviews, but the
First thing you do, what?
Yeah.
Is go straight to the negative.
You go to the negative
So what
one
is-
because everybody wants to
Exactly.
see, where the faults are, what the problems are.
Exactly.
And no, that's absolutely right. And so, that is great content for your site. but also answering these questions that you get asked repeatedly. Or even if it was the first time you've ever been asked that question, but if it was a good question, going in and writing a blog post about it is fantastic. You know, you want to keep it short and sweet, but you want to give enough detailed information that really answers the question. And then simply by using a category, let's say in WordPress, you can create an FAQ section where all of those posts can actually live under that category. But, you know, so that's great. I mean, that's great for the Google juice. I mean, just what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, being found, getting on page 1 of the search results, you know, that's great for that. But what it also is good for is when you follow up with these emails and say, oh, you know, you had a question about X, Y, and Z. Below are a few links that will give you more information about those questions. Right. So you can drive back to your website. They can go read the articles, and of course, while they're there, you know what's available. Your portfolio's there. You know, they can look
basically
through your
it gives
images
them a reason to come back to you, and it gives them all of the answers that they're looking for. It also gives you the opportunity to give them to them without having to reiterate over and over and, you know, copy paste out of Google documents the exact same, you know, information over and over. And, you know, just like you said, getting them back to your website, you know, certainly there's something there that they can find of value besides what they're looking for. They'll stumble across a video, you know, that someone gave you a fantastic review, or they'll stumble across something else that will say, you know what, wow, this guy's got it together.
Right.
I mean, he's got this amazing presence. Look at all of this stuff. And, you know, compared to this other guy that has like this one site that has like 10 pictures flipping or whatever, you know, they're looking for information, and you giving it to them is just the big, huge difference compared to the standard Dear John breakup letter.
Absolutely. It's a great way to turn that Dear John breakup email into valuable information, and that will really help the customer with their buying decisions as to whether or not to choose you. So,
yeah, I tell you what, one side note, we'll give you a little, as you always call them, the ninja, you know,
the little ninja trick.
Yeah. The little trick.
Yeah.
You know, you're putting all this information on your website, and you're putting it into, let's say, WordPress, because the majority of us are using WordPress. Okay, putting together a category for FAQ would be fantastic. You can go and do a search, and all the facts come up, and there they are.
Right.
But search on WordPress is horrendous.
Yep.
If someone is looking for something specific on your website and they go into the little search box and they look for it, chances are they're not going to find what they're looking for because their search is horrible.
Yep.
Take a look. There's a lot of different search apps out there. As you just love the plugins. There's a plugin for that.
There is a plugin for that. Yep. That's
search
right.
around, find a plugin for search, and install that, because that will help you 10, 15, 20 fold for people being able to find something, especially when you have, you know, a site inundated with quality information.
Right.
Some of this stuff will be, you know, unearthed because you just can't find it. It's just horrible.
Yeah, those plugins are really great because they will actually scan all of your pages if you select your pages and your blog posts, and it will scan every piece of copy and it will pull out keywords. And it will index them in the database, which makes the search engine so much more powerful. You can actually set the plugins up to rank them by relevance. So, you know, give more weight to the title. So if you use a reception hall's name in the title and somebody actually searches that hall's name on your website, of course, that will show up first. If you do that with the native WordPress search, there's no telling what you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to get. There's no telling what you're going to get.
Yeah, you just don't know.
Yeah.
So anyways, we got a lot more to come, but before we get any deeper into the show, let's go ahead and hear from a couple of our sponsors.
Are you frustrated with slightly out of focus images when you know your autofocus spot was dead on? It's simply not your fault. From manufacturer to manufacturer, and even lens copy to lens copy, there are slight variances to the exact spot where light is being focused onto the sensor. Finally, there's a product that allows you to compensate for those variances and make sharper images immediately. Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool, is an absolute must for every photographer. If you want to make the sharpest images possible, then you need to take control over your camera's focusing system. With the Focus Pyramid, you can calibrate all of your lenses on your lunch break. The Focus Pyramid makes lens calibration quick and easy at an affordable price. So give your lenses a new lease on life and take your photography to the next level. Head over to focuspyramid.com/DPC and get an additional 10% off just for being a show listener. From phones, tablets, laptops, and PCs, these days photographers use multiple internet-connected devices.
Have you ever wished you could view your Lightroom images, folders, collections, and metadata from any of these devices? Now you can.
Mosaic Storage Systems has created Mosaic View, an application that gives you access to your images without exporting or using a publishing service.
Mosaic also offers Mosaic Archive, which directly integrates with Lightroom as a powerful cloud backup solution.
Mosaic gives photographers access to all of their images from anywhere on virtually any device.
Try Mosaic View today for free and access 2,000 of your most recent images.
As a Digital Photography Cafe viewer, Mosaic is offering a 20% discount off any of their premium plans.
Go to mosaicarchive.com and use coupon code DPC at checkout.
Mosaic. Lightroom, anywhere, any device, secure, backed up. As photographers, we're always trying to increase sales and profits after every event.
We shoot an event and have hundreds or even thousands of images that just sit on our hard drives.
Perhaps a better workflow would increase sales by getting those valuable images in front of the client.
That's where ShootProof comes in. At shootproof.com, you can have an online gallery for all of your clients' proofing needs.
ShootProof helps increase profits while building your brand and securing your photos without charging commission fees on sales.
ShootProof galleries display your photos beautifully while helping to streamline your workflow and automate more of your business through their intuitive studio control panel.
Once approved, photos can be directly fulfilled through ShootProof's various professional lab partners or fulfilled by you.
All ShootProof plans have the same feature set. You simply choose the number of client photos stored, decide what products to sell, and the price.
Try ShootProof today by taking advantage of their free 30-day trial offer.
As a Digital Photography Cafe viewer, ShootProof is offering a 20% discount off any of their premium plans by using promo code DPC20 at checkout.
ShootProof. Upload, share, sell, print.
So, all right, Trevor, we are back. So now kind of the next section of the show, we want to kind of answer a couple of emails, as we got some really, really great listener questions that came in, and we just kind of want to talk about them and kind of give them as much time as we can, because the questions are really, really important to us. And I'm telling you, now that things have really been, moving forward, and we're really starting to get some folks entering in all of these questions, it's like just great for us, because we can actually kind of expound upon things that that you guys want to know about, instead of us always looking for topics to talk about. Now all of a sudden the topics are kind of about exactly what you want to know. So this is really great, really important. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, we actually even are toying with the idea of potentially doing a live Q&A show maybe once a month or something. So keep the questions coming in. I mean, because this could be really great content for that. So but anyway, so we got an email from Dexter Wandell, and he said that he recently found us on iTunes about a month or so ago, and he is now caught up on all of our past episodes.
I love this guy.
Yeah, he says, you guys have a great show, and I look forward to the new shows.
Right. That's awesome.
Yes, that's awesome. Especially that he went back and listened to 80 something shows.
Yeah, we're on 89. So yeah, that's a lot, many hours of content. So I'm sure you got a ton of valuable information there. I tell you what, guys, if you're just kind of new and you're just listening in, like Trevor was saying, I mean, we've been doing this for about a year and a half, and we've talked about so many different topics that people have put in and stuff that we have kind of put out. Answered question, as well as putting out just, good, solid information. Go back in the shows, take a look at the titles of the shows, see if there's something that is of value to you. Chances are there's a ton of different things that you can kind of listen to or watch now, as of show, 52 when we went live on video. So go back there, look at the archives, because there is a bunch
to go through. Lots and lots of stuff.
Lots and lots of content, for sure.
So anyway, he says he's a semi-pro photographer who mostly shoots headshots, and in the past would give the client JPEG files that were about 5 megs a piece. So now he's getting more into event photography and giving 5 meg JPEGs of all the images is just too much. He asked what our recommendation is on how to deliver the images to the client.
Right. So I guess, I like to kind of look at it twofold. One is, what size do you want to keep it for your archives, and what size you want to give your client?
Right.
Starting out with the client should only get what the client wants, number one, because many times, there's a client that says, listen, I need, let's say, a headshot for a real estate, I'm a real estate broker. I need this headshot.
Right.
And,
and it's going to be used on a business card or something.
You're going to use it on a business card, or they're going to use it for just online.
Yep.
At that, for something like that, you need to give them basically a 4x6 is hugely big,
Yep.
but big enough, obviously, for a business card.
Sure.
And 72 PPI, another version, which would be, let's say 500 or 640 by 480 or something like that, is more than big enough. So give them what they want. Don't give them more than that. It's not necessary. You don't need to give he was saying something about a 5 meg file. There's a problem with that because a 5 meg file in a JPEG is immense. I mean,
what is that, like an 18 megapixel shot out of the camera?
Yeah.
It's big.
One of the probably it's really, really big. You don't need to do that.
No.
It's not necessary at all. What happens most of the time is people are in Photoshop, they're doing their edits, and then they go ahead and hit save as, and they hit JPEG. They set it all up for exporting sRGB, however it is, and then they drag the slider to maximum.
Right.
Do not drag that slider to maximum. It is not necessary.
Right.
If you're doing a 4x6, anywhere from 8, 9, 10 is sufficient, and a standard, let's say 4x6 print should be no bigger than a meg. Meg and a half would be huge. Don't even think. Probably be less than a meg. That is the size of a 4x6 and what it should be, and that's even at that's even print size. If you're giving them that 4x6 that they're going to be using online at 72 PPI, it will be 200K. So really,
that compression is really important. I mean, whether you're dealing with print, I mean, I've dealt with print, all my life, and you want the biggest, baddest files you can have, right? But you really don't need that big of a file for final production, as well as online. You have these big files, these big images that you're uploading to your website, let's say, and you're scaling them down in WordPress, let's say, using the magnification setting. You still have a big file on there, even though it's physically being used smaller. So what you need to do is upload that smaller size to use on your site, and you need to compress it more, like you were saying, Joe. I mean, a setting of 8, especially for online, is going to be more than enough.
Exactly. And, so the side note to that is like we were talking about using the real estate headshot as an example. If they're going to be using it online and it's going to be a 72 PPI image and it's going to be, let's say, 640 by 480 or probably even smaller. I mean, it could be even a thumbnail 200 by something. That gives you an idea on how much retouching that you really need to do to accomplish what you need to accomplish. So too many people are retouching for a wall portrait and not retouching for the final output that the client requests.
Yeah.
So don't do that. Be very, be cautious on, because sometimes you're putting too much work in when you really don't need to.
Yeah.
I tell you what,
money.
Trevor, too, and retouching takes a lot of time. And if you're not giving, the side to that also, which is important here, is you really want to retain these big images so that later, and not give them away. So later on, if the party that did this real estate, go back to the real estate headshot, says, you know what, I love that picture. My daughters want that picture for their wall, let's say. Okay, so, they want a 20 by 30 of this. Well, if you already gave them a 5 meg file, chances are they're going to be able to just print that, at their local Costco or wherever, and not go through you, and they won't go through you. If you gave them what they asked for, they're going to come back to you and they're going to say, oh, can I get a bigger, JPEG so I can print it? Well, yes, you could, and it's going to be this amount.
Right.
Or can you print it for me? Absolutely, I can print it for you, and it's going to be this amount. It keeps them coming back to the studio and not just throwing the stuff out there and then you never see them again. You need longevity. You need the upfront money, and you need the residual. You need that coming in after the fact. It could be years down the road. I get models that come back to me that say, "Oh, do you remember we did this shoot, 4 years ago? Some of those pictures, this magazine really liked, and they want to." Okay, sure. How big do you want them?
Right.
I've had models come back and end up ordering, life-size pictures, just huge prints that are hundreds and hundreds of dollars. If I would have gave them a 24 megabyte file, I would never have seen them again. So,
Yeah.
and then the side to that is you really need to then retouch for something that's going to be the size of a full body person. You're not going to retouch for that single small poster stamp. You're going to be in there doing pour level, as I call it, retouching,
Right.
to make sure everything is absolutely perfect, because you want your work to retain the look that you created at the beginning. The side to that
That's right.
also is, and then we got like 10 sides here, because this is really
There's a whole
important.
lot of sides to this.
There's a lot of side. This is like a cube. Spin it around again. Now, if you look at the bottom side of that, is when you're pulling these things together and doing those retouches, doing them for the big image is going to be different from the small image, like I said. But you don't want to give them all of that hard data, that hard retouching beforehand, before they pay for it.
Right.
Because for
Right.
us in our studio, we get $125, an image for retouching. That's just what our studio charges for this, as we call it, pour level retouching. So, you don't just want to give away, as we say, the cow and the farm, right out the get go.
Yeah, I mean, if you're being hired to do the final retouching, let's say you're doing commercial work and this is product photography, or even if it's a portrait, you are being paid to do pour level retouching up front. You're being paid to make that product look perfect, look flawless up front. So then you're
Exactly.
charging accordingly. You're getting paid that money up front for that retouching. If somebody's just saying, oh, I just want some 4x6s, don't go in there and spend all this time retouching these images for these 4x6s. Go in there, do a lot of global stuff where you can. If you need to
Right.
break out individual images and tweak individual images, then do so. But do it on that 4x6 level. Do the retouching on a level to where it's going to be viewed at. And like you said, save the high end stuff if they come back to you and want those larger prints. I mean, this kind of segues into the next question that we had got this week, saying, about, Uncle Bob. We get this Uncle Bob question all the time. And so this came in from Alec Ruckers, and he says, with lots of alternatives to DSLRs, how do you convince potential people to not go the Uncle Bob route, especially with the dumbing down taking place and, whether they're willing to choose the quality or not quality. And this really is a big thing. You need to separate yourself from the other photographers out there in the quality work that you do. And if you're going to, just do the bare minimums all the time, then you're not really going to get it. It's not going to separate your stuff. On the other hand, if you give everything away, like you said, up front, you're spending a lot of time and energy and putting a lot of work into these images that you're not necessarily being compensated for.
Right. Yeah, that the whole Uncle Bob question is a huge question, and it definitely is a rabbit hole.
Yeah, it really is.
The idea that chances are you will be at an event where the camera that you're using is not necessarily as good or as modern or as current as the extremely rich guy next to you.
Sure.
That's just the nature of the beast right now. That's just the way that it is. So, how to distinguish yourself, from the Uncle Bobs out there. The problem that we're having right now is mediocrity is reigning supreme.
Yeah.
People just are saying, yeah, that's good enough. That's okay. That's good enough. We'll have Uncle Bob shoot the pictures, and that's good enough. And, nothing's going to change until the economy changes, because if people can't pay for you to do higher end stuff, you're just not going to do it. That's just it. But how do we, show that Uncle Bob's not the way to go? I mean, there's many, many ways to do this, but, a few to kind of keep in mind is, you need to know, they need to look at you and say, not only is this guy capable. In other words, back to your content marketing, looking at your website.
Sure.
Not only is this guy capable, because I'm looking at his images and they're amazing, but according to all of the reviews I've read on this guy, he is a photographer that is reliable and he will be there. Yep. And so, that is pretty big because
be there
Bob,
with backup equipment in case your camera body breaks or a lens malfunctions or whatever. And you have that redundancy.
Be there in quotes, right?
Yeah.
Be there in air quotes.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. And you know what? And it goes back to the quality of your work. You need to produce stellar images, regardless of what your subject matter is. You need to reproduce images that look great that Uncle Bob can't do. Maybe Uncle Bob doesn't have the experience. He doesn't have the years behind the camera. Or maybe he does, but you still need to come up with a style. You need to still come up with a technique, something that separates you from Uncle Bob. And I know for a while there, I mean, that the whole photojournalist style to wedding photographies, that became a big thing. Now I know our friend Lindsay Adler over there, she's really big in promoting this fashion type of flair to wedding photography. And that's creating a style that's doing something that Uncle Bob isn't going to have a clue on how to do.
Exactly. And, the whole idea of shooting a DSLR in comparison to a point and shoot, I can tell you from experience that folks that are buying these DSLRs and using them, chances are the images that they're producing are worse than the images that they produced with their point and shoots.
Sure.
Because the point and shoots are made to be dumbed down that anybody can take a flat image and create something of decent quality right out the camera. You get a DSLR and you can go and put it on P for Professional that I always kid about.
Yep.
And the images that you shoot will be great, but they will be as flat as a simple point and shoot. Greater megapixels, maybe, the pixels might be cleaner, but the bottom line is they'll all look, everything will be the same. As soon as they go and throw that on aperture priority, shutter priority, or manual, then all of a sudden everything is just thrown into the garbage. The images that they produce will be horrendous. They'll be blurry images because shutter speeds are dropping below handhelding speed. Everything will just go to heck. And that's what you want. That's what it's going to. That's the difference between you, being a professional that can be in any situation at any time with any light and pull together something.
Yes.
That is the difference between a professional and Uncle Bob. When the bleep hits the fan, you are still able to create an image that is not only acceptable but great in adverse conditions, where Uncle Bob would be like, I don't know, I can't do this. Everything's black or everything's blown out.
Right.
And that's the difference between a professional. So,
and that's
these,
it. And
these are the things.
If you out there are an Uncle Bob and you're looking to be this emerging pro, you're looking to move into the professional space, then you really need to step up your game. You need to think about your equipment, not only just making sure that you have good equipment, but you have redundancy, and you have to work on your technique. You have to work on your images, make them look the best they can, really learn your craft. You don't need to be professionally trained. I mean, we talk about this all the time, Joe. I mean, you don't have to go to art school and be professionally trained as a photographer to be a good photographer. I mean, there are many great photographers out there who've, never had a stitch of traditional, college or art school training. But you need to educate yourself. You need to read the books. You need to study other photographers' work. You need to look at the different styles. You need to look what's, trendy, what's happening right now. You need to look at past styles, and you need to kind of come up with a style and a theme that's what you call your own, whether it's original or not. I mean, that doesn't really matter, but it's your style. It's what you're embracing as your style, your technique.
Yeah. A little trick that, I originally learned, obviously I went to school for this, but, so and it was all film back then, but,
no
once
digital back then.
Yes, it's back then. I still have my 1D, the very first, camera. The camera was the first Canon. I think it was right around $8,000, and it shot an amazingly huge 4.7 megapixels for like $7-8 grand.
Yeah. You know what camera I had? I had an Apple QuickTake camera.
Oh my God. More crazy.
That thing was garbage, man. That thing was
Oh my
so
God.
bad. That wasn't even good for comping. The images were just so poor on that thing.
Yeah.
And it was the first Apple. I think they made 2 stabs at that camera, and we had the first generation, and that was not good.
Literally stabs.
Oh, man.
So here's a trick. Go ahead and people are using something to edit. You're using either Aperture or using Lightroom or you're using something. Every one of your pictures is going to have XF data in it, which is extremely important. Everyone does things differently in the edit. For me, I use Lightroom, but I also use other packages like Aperture. I even use GIMP over on the Linux box. It just depends on where I am. It doesn't matter. I'm like the eclectic guy. I have every computer, as I used to be in the computer industry. But anyways, the thing is, for me, I export sidecars, which is basically it's an extra file that has all of the XF data in it instead of storing it in the raw image itself.
Right.
What I like about that is you can go and load that into any application, and you'll have all of your edits that you already did in, let's say, Lightroom. Really easy to kind of move from package to package. Sometimes you're on a computer that doesn't have your latest Lightroom 4.0, it has something else. If you have the sidecar for that specific, let's say CR2 or whatever the raw file that you're using, you'll be able to see all of your edits prior. And you can make further edits too. But the main thing is looking at that XF data. When you look at that data, you can take a look at the image and you can see it, what shutter speed you shot it at, what was the zoom, what was everything about that specific image. And you can say, okay, this image really looks great. This one looks absolutely horrible. Now let's see what is different about it. And what did I do different? Because the lighting was the same. I was in the same church, or I was in the same synagogue.
Right.
And you can look at them and you can very easily teach yourself to kind of learn how to shoot, let's say manually or aperture priority or shutter priority, where you should be, and not in, as we say, any of the automatic, like P for professional settings. So use that XF data for learning, as a learning tool. We didn't have that back in the day. Now you do. Use it. It will help, 100%.
Right. And by the way, guys, we know that P doesn't stand for professional. We joke about that all the time. We've actually had one or two people.
P doesn't
stand for professional. We know that, guys. We're just kind of joking around, So anyway, so Joe, I think that was great stuff, but it is time to get out of here.
Yeah, we need to mosey on.
We got to go. So if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to reach you?
You can find me on Twitter. That's at Joseph Christina, and that's Christina without an H.
Great. And you can connect with me on Twitter at Trevor Curran.
So, all right, everybody, we are out of here. You can get our show notes from this episode by visiting digitalphotographycafe.com/89. Keep your questions and comments coming, and we'll see you next week.
You've been watching the Digital Photography Cafe show with Trevor Curran and Joseph Christina. Be sure to subscribe to the show for free in iTunes or through RSS. You can also listen on Stitcher and TuneIn Radio and watch in HD on TiVo. Visit digitalphotographycafe.com for show notes and to connect with your hosts.